On September 30th, 2022, the channel Argo Spiral released a trailer for the rapidly approaching October celebrations, an event where a video will be released every day for the entire month of October, to introduce many new viewers to the channel and giving back to longtime viewers to make up for very inconsistent upload schedules. I'm Argo Spiral, and this is the retrospective / creator commentary of my 3-year-old project. My goal here is to cover the timeline of conception to release, while giving context and extra tidbits towards many of the strange choices I made while making it. So without further ado, let's start with how I came up with October celebrations in the first place. Alright, let's set the stage. It's around late March to early April, and I spend most of my time watching YouTube or creating videos. A lot of the YouTubers I watched had charmingly amateur editing and covered niche topics about Roblox. These included folks like Epic Breadian, Designing For, and Bedsheet Ghost, or as he was known at the time, OctoberCelebrations. It was at that moment a thought struck me. I love Halloween festivities. It's the reason October is my favorite month of the year. I also always wanted a chance to shine a light on niche topics and reignite interest in them, though with the views I was getting that wasn't possible. What didn't help was that my upload schedule, if you could even call it that, was wildly inconsistent. Because of this brainstorming, I thought to combine all these ideas into one Frankenstein's monster of a project. October was a while away, giving me all the time I would need to create 31 videos that would rake in tons of new viewers, and from there just spiral into a fantasy of getting all the fame I desired and sharing it with others I felt deserved a little more love. That's subconsciously why it's called October Celebrations in the first place, to show the guy it's named after that he had inspired me. You know, when I say it out loud now, it honestly sounds parasocial, but when I was making it, I guess I just kinda found it funny. Just like that, October Celebrations was conceived half a year away from October. Next up is the development timeline, and I gotta confess, it was a clusterfuck. There was a whole segment in the first 2 drafts looking at the inner workings of my mind to illustrate why I struggled so much making it. To cut it short, I simply bit off way more than I could chew. Even from conception, 31 videos was way too much, yet I still went with it anyway. This is why the first 14 videos are all things I was passionate about. When that well dried up, I started retreading things I'd already talked about. Stuff like the Slender avatar trends, RetroStudio, and Bear*, to name a few. And the closer and closer we get to the end here, the more it devolves into stuff like poorly structured rants, horror games I didn't care about, just random shit that I phoned in at the last seconds. Like old Roblox gameplay videos. That sounds like it would be a footnote in another video. Only a 2-parter in the last few videos you could truly be like, oh yeah, this is a Halloween special. And even then, there aren't things I even truly care about. It really should have been a red flag for me that there were very few ideas that didn't see the light of day. The only ones I remember being a video on Slendytubbies and Backrooms fan games on Roblox. There being 31 videos really messed up a lot of the project actually. You know, when there's only one video I gotta do, it's something that I can afford to procrastinate on. But with 31 videos, oh boy. I had and still do have this mindset of, if it's not due today, do it all right now or do it all right before it's due. For a single video, this works, but there was so much work I didn't know how much I had to do to even keep up. I had finished a list of videos in like mid-May and started script writing after school ended in June. So I'd go from making multiple videos one day to completely sleeping on the project the next. I think I remember writing the scripts for October 24th to 27th in one night after giving myself an inner pep talk at my local pool. It also didn't help that I felt a contractual obligation to enjoy summer to the fullest, so Have you ever had something you need to do at a certain point in the day, and that thing just consumes your whole day as you mentally prepare to do it, but you're not actually doing it? Yeah, that happened quite a lot. Just to nip this in the bud, I also dropped a few teasers for it in my Discord, showing off my new snazzy editing tricks I'd built up. Eventually though, I did finish editing at around the time school had started again in September. Unfortunately, I had forgotten to do the thumbnails, so I rushed into Roblox Studio and Photoshop and began mass producing these things without taking a single step back to consider what makes one good. And that's why they're so ugly. Unfortunately, I remember eventually deleting all of them, so you'll never get to see these in 4K. Sorry about that. In late September, I rigged up the videos to drop every day from October 1st to October 30th, giving myself time to relax and watch the hypothetical cash flow in. Then I spent October creating the 31st episode of October Celebrations, my largest video yet, to cap it off. That about sums up the timeline of events. Now for my favorite part, the creator commentary itself. This one's only 1 minute long, so I'll make this brief. During this time I experimented with edits, which is a common occurrence in October celebrations, specifically the shots of multiple games at once.
Brought to you in the form of stereo.
I actually messed up the rhymes here. Stereo means radio, not TV. I didn't look it up because I was too far in to make changes, or I was just too lazy to.
You'll just have to see for yourself. At 4 p.m. EST every day of October, tune into my channel. Who knows, you may just catch a video. Perhaps
I lied about the upload schedule here. I lured the viewer into believing there would only be one, like every once in a few days, so I could take them all by surprise with 31 videos. The model poses and backgrounds were obviously rushed. I didn't trust myself to take the time to learn how to make this look presentable and still be on time. Day 1 sets quite the precedent for the rest of the series. A lot of October celebrations staples make themselves known here. For starters, the showman persona was extra prevalent here due to me starting out with a clear mind and being very excited to work on this during the summer. You can also blame this on me copying the YouTubers I watched growing up, who were all very snarky, but because of the rush to make content, there was little reviewing of my work. You know, it's weird. I remember my irony being a lot more obvious in these videos. In hindsight, I wouldn't blame anyone for thinking I was actually this bombastic. Oh well, it can always get worse. And it will. Secondly, I was only around a year into my YouTube career at this time, so a lot of the edits are very basic. Some notable ones I did a lot were fade-ins and fade-outs, zoom-outs, and an abundance of awkward keyframing, which took up a lot of time. Another thing I tried replicating was an edit I saw from a channel I liked called F.E.A.R. Images would distort and slowly stretch out into nothingness, which I really digged. However, I didn't have the skills that F.E.A.R did, so I would just use shortcut distortion effect, keyframes, and other fade-out filters to mimic this effect. Most unfortunate for last, one precedent the 31 video format set that I'm not proud of is the lack of research I would do. Most of what I say here is based on what I already knew, instead of diving further. For example, here I knew that the Girls Night flick was made popular because of Stan Twitter edits. And that's why it's called Girls Night, Stan Twitter Sensation. However, I still needed something to talk about, which is why it's a little more than a plot summary instead of an actual analysis.
Not to mention the...
Every video has its own unique intro to it, with a few exceptions. I ain't got much to say about it, just I thought it would be cool. Already this one has a little nugget of trivia to it.
For today, I think it's time to go back to old Roblox horror games.
Hear that? That was a quote of my first serious video. I'll play it for you now.
To understand the context of this great crossing, we have to go back to early RetroStudio, back and forth.
Do with that what you will. A lot of my humor at this time was a mix of dry British humor and edginess for the sake of edginess, a lot of which definitely hit harder in my head. The reason for this is time crunch. I didn't do second takes back then, I only repeated myself if I got stuck on a sentence. I guess subconsciously, I thought that if it was intelligible, it was good enough. So I never got to review my takes before putting them in the video editor. This led to most of the voiceover being overly sarcastic, as you can hear during the video, and some lines not flowing well enough to have the impact I imagined. Heck, sometimes you can hear me slur my words, stuff I'd only noticed during production, but by then I felt it was way too late. So I have to thank YouTube's automatic caption system for making this more comprehensible. And oh yeah, one of the edits in the trailer was comprised of footage of the free games in this video. Before we move on, out of every video from October celebrations, this is the one I'm actually looking forward to giving another shot in the form of a retake. I do have an interest in old Roblox horror games. This video just did a poor job at showing it. The final result in my eyes feels like the opening segment to a much larger video. So while I don't make promises, I wouldn't completely rule out an actual deep dive in the near future. Moving on. One strength I'm willing to admit October celebrations has is calling back to itself and having a strong continuity. For example, me disliking the mimic clone trend in day 2 being referenced in day 3. This happens a lot across the videos, it was always nice to see going back to it. However, this is the only time I'm really pointing it out, as it's a small positive. Just know that it's there.
But that's a story for another day.
That bendy song. I wanted to reference it in the video, but because I did no more than like 2 takes, it fell flat. Now that I think about it, I don't know how I got the idea to fake sing as a joke in the first place. Unfortunately, I lost where I got the idea from. Sorry about that. That's about everything notable in this video. It was a real easy one to edit for a reason, so I think I'll take this time to talk about the music. Most of my videos are RetroStudio based. Because of that, I picked up a lot of old Roblox songs used as background music in my videos. And when it wasn't that, I used the same few tracks on my Hat in Time, Team Fortress 2, or the Mario series. So for October Celebrations, I decided to give it its own dedicated soundtrack made up of all the Halloween video game music I could find in about an hour or two. Like most things in October Celebrations, the OST was never improved upon first finishing it. That's why you'll be hearing the same handful of tracks for most of this series. I made a playlist with the purpose of compiling the tracks so I could download them from YouTube to a site called Y2Mate. Given that I had nothing to hide at that point, I made the playlist public when October Celebrations released. And to this day, it's on my channel's playlist for whatever reason you could want to view it. Moving on. Obviously, I had a lot of love for Church Ascension and Draggy's games in general. This video is clearly the one that goes the most in depth, after all, so I wanted to make my tone stand out in this video when compared to the rest. This is how I ended up with a very dramatic script with lots of vivid descriptions. It's also why I just sound a lot more sappy in general. But don't be mistaken, some of this stuff is gold. His world paired with the door bursting open always makes me smile, to this day. I'm also quite proud of my interpretation of an anime being representative of depth. But mostly just because this was before I had even stepped into a high school English class and knew what an allegory was. Now at the start of the video, there is text that appears on the screen as notes for the viewer. Those are colored in to be the same colors of the game itself, which makes it very glossy and hard to read. You'll also notice this in the thumbnails. I wanted to make my text pop out to make my thumbnails more appealing. However, I knew very little about color theory or graphic design, so I'd have the cool color of the text in front and the warm color in the background, which looked ugly and harder to read. This is once again because the thumbnails were rushed, so I never take a step back and see if the thumbnail itself was readable. Having the full title of the video in the foreground looked good up close, and so I think it was good enough. But on the YouTube website itself, the text would be too stretched thin and small to properly see, something I only realized after it was far too late. You can even see me slowly try to rectify this if you look at the thumbnails after October Celebrations, making the text bigger and bigger until they cover the entire bottom half of the thumbnail. While we're on the subject of thumbnails, now feels like a good time to talk about the avatars I use in this series. Of course, there's a Sinister S design that was mostly borrowed from my regular outfit, but that's a classic variant, and I would alternate between these two outfits depending on what time frame the video is focused on. For example, the thumbnail from Day 3 had the modern design because the game came out very recently at the time of recording, while the thumbnails for Day 10 and 11 use the classic designs as they are about old Roblox. However, there are a lot of inconsistencies, like Day 2 using the modern design despite being about old Roblox, while Day 6, a video about a modern remake of the Undead Coming, uses the classic design. This is because, say it with me folks, the thumbnails were rushed. When it came to gameplay footage, once again the modern Sinister S was used in newer games, while a classic avatar using the Breadian skull was used for old games. Fun fact, I got the Breadian skull and Sinister S through trading my limiteds from my short-lived training days and selling them to scrounge up enough Robux respectively. Making these avatars was probably the most fun I had during the whole thing. Guess I just have a knack for putting together costumes and character designs. Moving on. Like with front page horror game, this is another basic summary. If I could describe this in the next few videos, it's that this is one of 3 filler arcs. This one specifically focuses on a bunch of forgotten games that could all be put together into one video. The only interesting part of this video comes a minute and a half in.
This is where most players will hang out, as being anywhere else makes them feel like being naked in a public place. However,
this is a deep cut only I give a single crap about. So back in my RetroStudio days, there was a YouTuber named Tutili, who made real effort skits about whatever mildly inconvenienced him. He was a joke in the community because he seemingly had a vendetta against people with Slender/rogue gangster avatars in the early 2020s. They had black/baggy clothes, the stitch face, and were, well, slender. People overblew their supposed toxicity for views, portraying them as volatile and hating bacon hairs. He was hated for other reasons, like being an old Roblox purist, and an incident where he got suspended for 3 days on RetroStudio for griefing in a nation roleplay game, and proceeded to make a video to his relatively big audience complaining about it. But the slender one is what's most important for now. So anyway, Tutili posted a poll once, asking if you would ban 100 Slenders and 100 rogue gangsters. And obviously you were expected to say yes. One of the comments was a kid saying, and this is the direct quote, "Lol, why not everyone said yes? It's like being naked in the public place." And that just happened to have stuck with me, so I put it in the video. I'm pretty sure that the poll and comment was lost to time, and now it only lives on through a video of less than 100 views. In such a manner, nobody would even be able to understand it was a reference in the first place. Back on topic with the maze itself, at the end I mentioned the planned reboot for the maze. That never happened. A shame, really. Though I do remember there being fan reboots out there. It might be nice to give them a try. Given this is another one of the few games I've really cared enough for to go into detail, I covered most of the game's history up to that point. You know, game got taken down, put back up, and the team that made it merged with another team to remake it. After my video though, a lot of stuff has happened in the years following. From what I can recall, the Undead company was passed around to another studio, Never-Die Interactive. However, and this is coming directly from the first two drafts I made back when the iron was hot, so to speak, this game became another one of their scrap projects, and the team worked solely on another game called Bombline. They must have realized they didn't want to do anything with Tuck at that point, so they passed ownership down to the Muscle Embassy for the official remake, which supposedly fixed many of the original game's issues. If you want to know more about the original vision for the remake, I have a link posted in the original video and this one of one of the developer Q&As for the game. When I was first writing the script for Day 6, I planned on citing one of my friends at the time as one of the threats when playing as the zombies, because he was one of the longest playing and best survivors in the game. Given the small player counts, I was basically stuck playing with him. That's about all there is to my video specifically though, as Breadian's video on the topic is basically mine just better. So if you want to have an analysis of this game, his is the better choice. Moving on to production, a clip from Day 6 was the first teaser I posted in my Discord about OctoberCelebrations, so that gives it a bit of significance. The teaser itself is one of the most complex edits from OctoberCelebrations, as I really wanted to experiment with keyframes as a way to show off. In general, the edits here are a bit more complex. You'll see a lot of footage taken from others, credited via impact font. This is partially due to an insecurity of mine of my footage being low quality. If I had only done a single Google search, I would have realized how to change my OBS settings, which I'd only done after the project wrapped up. Moving on. I recall this video being the one I banked on succeeding, mostly because no one remembered Draggyy given its nature of being a trend-chasing game. It was also meant to be a way to raise awareness of the old and forgotten games, kind of imploring my audience to tell their own stories about games that no one else seems to remember. Other games would get more in-depth analysis, but this is the most passionate video I made. It kinda made me realize in post-production that passion overrides snarkiness when making videos. Starting with this video, I really grew to like using an editing tactic of recording myself scrolling on YouTube, putting it into shotcut, and speeding it up. It's quite a staple of the editing style of OctoberCelebrations, being quick and easy while looking more professional. Moving on.
But once again fell all the way down. .wav.
I'm pretty sure that was meant to be a joke. Oh, and in this part where I take a jab at people dick riding bacon here is back in the early 2020s.
I'm doing an easy boss battle. Keep in mind, this is before everyone started sucking bacon here. The chapter ends with a mysterious figure taking the
It's evident of two things that we'll eventually get back to. First of all, back in the day, I was like the #1 Slenders defender. I thought it was really stupid how people acted like Slenders were the devil, and as such, I wanted to spread awareness about it, which was something I would do in many videos. I didn't understand hyperbole back then, which is why I had a bone pick of videos that generalized Slenders, especially made by those who had made a short-lived career out of it. I guess I've always just had a bone pick with stereotypes of people treating surface-level analysis as fact. This died down once I realized most of what was being said was just lame jokes, and that the average person really shouldn't be expected to do a bunch of research. There's nothing wrong with having a basic understanding of something, just don't go around parading yourself as an expert is all. Speaking of which, this is where my rushing of things slips through, as this video had some of the objectively worst takes in the series, to the point where not even I could understand some of the words I said. Yeah, I went with those takes anyway because I was really in a hurry. The script also suffered because once again I hadn't done my research. After OctoberCelebrations closed up, I realized that another YouTuber had done his own video on .wav, which was much better than mine, and was released while I was still in the process of churning out scripts and editing 2 or 3 videos in one day. So yeah, you're only really getting surface level analysis from these videos. Looking back, .wav itself, which is a product of its time, with a lot of added OCs in between contemporary memes. In retrospect, it's not exactly a shock to me anymore that it didn't last long after quarantine. Not to say it didn't have its quirks, I liked a lot of the bonus content like Paradox Isles, Roblox HQ, and the Challenge Tower. But Oof Legacy, as a group, couldn't really keep up with what Roblox's landscape asked of them. You look at their other games and it's clear they were mostly just trend hopping, however eventually the trend games weren't, well, trendy anymore, so they crashed and burned. I remember when Eat and Destroy had up to 1,000 players at its release, then immediately fell off to double or even single digits. Simply put, a lot of developers just weren't built for Roblox's modern landscape. They had too much soul. Now, if there's one thing I want you to gain from this, it's that I swear to God, strike me down if I'm lying, I was the first person to obtain the Pro Egg. I vividly remember checking the player's own number after getting it and watching it go from 0 to 1 a minute or so after I got it. This is one of my biggest accomplishments in life. Anyways, RIP.WAV. Moving on. Honestly, this one isn't even a footnote. This could have been a community post. I was really stretching out the script for this one just to not make it look too short. Funny thing is, this video didn't even age well. We got a Stairs of Pumpkin last year as of recording, and while I don't entirely expect one this year, hey, this is meant to drop on the 30th of September. I didn't even wait for October to arrive and write the script for day 9. Things very well could have changed, and that's something that will become very apparent soon. Moving on.
By the way, it's time to end this video. Ha! Clickbaited you.
Weird take aside, since I didn't review my script before recording, at the start of the video, I made it explicitly clear this was a part 1 to another video. Wasn't even a premiere, it just got dropped. You already showed your hand. You didn't clickbait anyone, dumbass. It could have easily been one video too. I just split it in 2 to be able to fill 2 slots, with the excuse of there being a running theme in each. Old events in the first, and the Blacktober saga in the second. Most of the video looking back was rather irrelevant, as I hadn't even played for these events, but I needed to get some entertainment value somehow, so I'd be pretending to get upset over Halloween Eve 2018 because I was regurgitating Epic Rika's opinions. In fact, this is where the second teaser for the project comes from, me pretending to be mad about October 2015's lazy items. The only reason I came up with this opinion was because of a green Lego Cats video, by the way.
So the only way to go is up, right?
Good observation, younger me. And there's one plus side to all of this, it's a snappier editing due to just being a special, so to speak. There's a lot more of it here, and there are a few special ones. My favorite of these had to be speeding up the music when listing off the prizes. One of the few things I bring back when making normal videos again. One shock that I had when watching again was that the event we were supposed to get during 2022, yeah, that never actually happened. I do wonder what went down to get it canned. I mean, hey, at least Roblox kinda cares about events now, so we're not completely in the dark. Moving on. Starting now is a trio of videos going over Roblox horror trends I had a bone to pick with. Out of all 3, this was the one I had the least to say. I had very little ill will towards its trends, I just thought it was more indicative of Roblox trends as a whole. While we have the time, I'd like to thank Breadian again, as this video has really encouraged me to do my own critical thinking, which is how I developed my points in this video. It also just felt very nice to know there was someone else who got it, so to speak. I tried a little bit more of the editing this time, find more complex movements like having 3 images rotating in cyclical motion, another one being having choppier animation to switch things up a bit. But because it was mostly keyframes though, it didn't look all that good. 2 of the background footage were OctoberCelebrations debuted in this one, Halloween Story by Chain Lemonade, and Haunted House by Miss Monkey Toes. I didn't feel bothered enough to get relevant background footage for every video, so I only had like 10 to pick and choose from for each. This is why a lot of footage can feel repetitive. It literally is just going to the same footage and choosing a different timestamp to start from. Moving on. Firstly, if anyone cares, the reason the titles are typed out like acronyms is because I thought it would look cool. Wait, no, of course you care. That's why you're still here. So, a little tidbit about me. I had a love-hate relationship with camping games back in the day. While I still held fond memories of playing them, in my soul I knew they were low quality. First time I ever came to my own conclusion. High school specifically, I would watch the player count to see if it dropped. I hated it that much. Holiday was another one that I despised. In fact, it's the one that gets the most slander in my video, because it was about as bad as camping games got. Bad building, cookie cutter truck usage, it was even bad at functioning as music would play when it wasn't supposed to.
Just another generic cool walking lie site. Okay, I'm getting up.
So, about this line, it's meant to say, full of walking lie sites. What's lie sites? Walk with me for a sec. People joke about RetroStudio mascot and Roblox and Tyler, the creators, persona A.R.E.D being this evil serial killer or eldritch horror, making spooky fan arts. This was brought on by the developers creating an inside joke within the community named the 1994 A.R.E.D incident, which would banish you if you typed it out in RetroStudio chat. I made up a highly corrosive black substance called lysite that came out of A.R.E.D's face when the mask was taken off. inspired by some fan art. I wanted it to be my own little inside joke. It first was referenced at the end of my 4th series video, which is about Roblox skins.
Now subscribe, or else I will tear off A-Ray's mask the moment you least expect it, forcing you to get devoured by the endless black void. It's a true way, right? As your tails ended in agony, your limbs get melted off by the corrosive black tar of light side.
This also ties into another running gag of every video ending with an A-Ray threat to coerce the viewer to subscribe. So yeah, inside joke. Thing about that though, there has to be a big enough in-group that understands the joke and comes up enough that it puzzles those who aren't in the know, so to speak. Nobody except me joked about it though. I don't think anyone who watched the videos originally could even comprehend what I was saying. Although I do remember asking Roblox and Tyler something along the lines of, "Is Lysite real?" in one of the joke channels of RetroDev and him responding yes. So, that's something. The voice work here is by far some of the worst in the series. Even the original 2 drafts I made 2 years ago shared this sentiment. I don't even know if I listened to my own voice before I put it into Shotcut and got to work. At multiple points, not even I could tolerate it anymore. So many times I tried to say something funny or intentionally absurd, only to completely butcher the delivery.
Boy! After getting some keys and sticks and free you, and here comes the boy.
I think these two are some of the worst lines in the series. You know, I'm really not sure why I derailed the Home Alone segment into a film study of the source material, and that's all I have to say about that. I originally intended to make another video going further into detail on Shade Lemonade Studios' library. They made the Halloween story in the Home Alone game, by the way. But OctoberCelebrations burnt me out quite a bit, and as time went on and I found more relevant topics, they just kind of faded away. A video on their games might be kind of fun, honestly, so I wouldn't completely rule it out. Moving on. Oh, I tell ya. The difference between the voicing in the last video and this one is night and day upon rewatch. Probably because I meant what I said and said it with full confidence. It's like the difference between a slow wobbling of versus a clean stroke of a pen. One thing that also became apparent to me was I tried to cram the phrase in the title after the subject of the video in the script, no matter how much it didn't fit. Like,
they truly were the product of a genie in a lamp.
really?
That's all, folks.
Moving on. Welcome to the second filler arc. Like the Sinister F video, this could have been a footnote. No, a tweet. Could have been a tweet. Like, yeah, words change meaning over time. That's not enough to warrant the whole video about it. I have 2 much better videos about Slenders anyway. This one is quite literally pointless. Moving on. One thing I really should have put in this is why old Roblox hats look the way they do. That being because nearly all of them were made by a single 3D modeler with a certain style. I'm starting to question why I didn't put it in there. Pretty sure I already knew that's why hats looked like that back in the day. Now that I think about it, it sounds like a good idea for a video. I even got a clickbait title prepared. "You don't miss old Roblox hats," or something like that. We'll see. Moving on. These next 3 are going to be another trilogy. Tales from RetroDev or something like that. I think my thought process for this would be that people would be so intrigued by my stuff by now that they'd be really interested in playing whatever I talked about, therefore boosting RetroStudio's player count. Red and I itself has certainly aged a lot more in the 3 years since that original video, and I don't see it as good as I did back then. But I can still appreciate how advanced it was with pre-block coding. Back then, we had to put our minds together to create complete bullshit contraptions to even do something as simple as swap 2 maps around on a timer. Okay, that kinda just sounds like regular scripting, but when you look at the individual parts on screen, I think it paints a picture on what the scripting scene was like back then. I was also quite biased, more so than most videos, so I wouldn't hold the opinions I say as very evident of the actual front page cycle I list in the video. A few tidbits here. The game I was making here was an actual Simon Says game I would frequently add and abuse in for shits and giggles. This isn't the last time you'll see it. And yes, I did type out, "Women aren't real, they're all femboys in disguise" in general. I don't think I remember the context of that inside joke, just that it was one. Now this little addendum right here, about the game coming back in June, really showed me that things can rapidly change in the months before the videos are set to go up, and make it redundant. Thankfully, this was one I could save in the end. Moving on. Out of every video, I think this one was the most rushed out the door. My minimal research led to me, you know, having the dates be mixed up, so what I speak of during the party is not what actually happened. The video itself was another unnecessary slot, so I dragged it out by making it more of a slideshow than a video. Now the reason I made this was less about Giovanni's party, but more about my own I had worked on during September and October. I saw an excuse to advertise my game and went, screw it, let's make a video advertising it. If you're wondering, it was quite fun, and it was a nice ego check when it came to my building skills. Moving on. I remember this one being a little briefer from the editing, as there was no one else who remembered the incident, and since the Discord channels were archived, they couldn't find any evidence of people talking about it. So I just got to focus on retelling a story no one else would, which felt special to me. Script wasn't doing so hot though. I say filled to the brim like 3 times in a span of 30 seconds. Also got some padding in there to stretch out the runtime. Moving on. This was one of the earlier picks, as this is a topic I had a lot of interest in. And it's one of the few videos that aged well. The old Roblox art style is everywhere today after all. I wouldn't say I was ahead of the curve. Actually, no, I guess it does fit. I believe I was one of the first few to really take note of this trend in video form.
For example, fuck. For example,
this is the only time I intentionally kept in a bad take. Emphasis on intentionally here. Thankfully this is the only time it happens. It would mess with the flow a lot otherwise. Edits are a lot more prevalent this time around, as they put special attention on this topic. Fun fact, this one edit of 9 games being shown off at the same time utterly annihilated Shotcut. I remember it lagging like hell when I so much as clicked on the area it was in the timeline. This is due to poor optimization, which is another editing lesson I would learn from this experiment. Moving on.
ASAP, or else you'll become its meal, or whatever it seeks to gain from killing you.
I don't know why, but the line delivery on this was surprisingly good when I heard it for the first time in years. Specifically, the tail end scratches an itch for me. So yeah, good job myself. Strangely enough, I have a vivid memory of editing this one Shotcut on a school night, just wasting away to get it done. Regarding the current topic, this video is like the milk to the last one's fine wine. Day 21 does not represent my current opinion on B.E.A.R at all. Looking back at the chapter length really stung when I first came back to this video like 2 years ago. I spend more time talking about skins than the actual gameplay. Even with the added length, like day 15, it's a regurgitation of a previous video made on the same subject with nothing of value added. My last B.E.A.R video is a lot more accurate to my current opinion of it if you're interested. Though if you go there, pay attention to the volume warnings in the description. Also, be warned, the court segment is not for the weak. Moving on. Okay, so first off, this video jump scared me so hard when I was writing this script. I was just chilling in my chair listening to it, and then BAM! I get hit with the 20 decibel gain filtered spotlight sound effect. And that's about all there is to say. Don't let my former self's enthusiastic voice fool you. I did not give a single shit about this video. It was only here to fill a slot. So the only natural step for me was to overdose on that passion in the very next one. Moving on. I think it says a lot about my confidence in the game plan for the project that I start out this video with, now that I have an audience to talk to, and use a day 20 free slot to call it the greed of Roblox devs. Speaking of which, I'd like to take this time to say fuck Area Omega. There is no Roblox game that should ever be selling game passes more than 10,000 a pop. And the gall to make people pay these exorbitant sums of money just to get shredded in 3 seconds by the awful balancing, making this piece of shit literally pay to lose. It's down there with Pet Simulator and free copyright Pokemon Fighters EX, with how god-awful its monetization is. Though, I gotta admit, I didn't have enough hatred in my heart to fully express it at the time, which is why I stopped myself to chill out like every 3 sentences. Ah hell, I can let it slide if it means reserving the tone. I mean, I quite literally prepared longtime viewers with a rant by calling back my first serious video. I mean, listen.
RetroStudio. Such a great game. Why begin? Area Omega. As someone who has
So yeah, wasn't Eclipse levels of mad go on a massive tangent. Speaking of tangents, the ending segment itself was also completely improv. I'm not sure if there was literally no editing after that point because I was tired, or because I wanted to communicate it being improv more obviously than it was already. Only time this happens as well. On a more positive note, pretty sure his line at the end
being good at the video game. In the future, be bright. I'm sorry if
is a nod to Dr. Wright from the SCP Foundation. Moving on. Starting now is the third and final filler arc of OctoberCelebrations, and boy does it show. Do you recall how I said at the beginning that the scripts for days 24 to 27 were written on the same day? Well, because of this, they were very short, barely scraping onto the second page of Google Docs. so I intentionally spoke slower and less enthusiastically, even having the title cards last longer just to stretch the runtime to what I felt was expected of me. I even take the time to let the viewer know that I rushed October Celebrations at the end of day 24. As of this point, I could see the writing on the wall. This will come up again in the next few videos. Like many others before it, this could have been a tweet. A hit tweet if I'm feeling generous. When reviewing the script for the video you're watching now, it hit me that starting around day 15, and more noticeably during this last stretch, I have less and less to say about these videos. Even the creator commentary you're listening to about the behind the scenes is getting shorter. Moving on. Production values suffered all throughout the stretch of videos. I noticed while watching again that I was starting to stutter over my words more, and how editing had become a lot more calm. As for the topic at hand, if the other shadow ideas were tweets, this was a shower thought. I first registered this after seeing the video topic, realizing too late that there was nothing to really say, so I more so put on a mini credit scene filled with pros trying to invoke nostalgia. I even poked fun at this multiple times in the video, which is always the first time when watching a YouTube video that the guy making it realized he messed up. Moving on. I'm only now realizing this, so I might as well say it here. Every video after a certain point opens up with an angle of the sinister S-hat, because it was easy to do and looked cool. Once again, this could have been a tweet, but thankfully I at least cared a small amount about this topic, so I put a little more effort into it. I also still have a soft spot for A&Bs with metal music playing in the background, so I can excuse it a little bit. Once again, I'm here apologizing for my mistakes when I doubt most would judge. Oh well, this won't last forever. Moving on. I don't need to tell you at this point that I was completely burnt out, and I did my best to show it here. Probably because I have Asperger's, my best shot was acting as a depressed person and making everything dark and gloomy. I kinda felt like I was guilt-tripping my audience when I was making it. I'll let you decide if that's true. Don't get it twisted, I assure you I was alright then, and I'm doing fine now. I just unintentionally worded the script and text at the end like a suicide note for some reason. And would you look at that? It's a promise I made to myself that you're currently watching. I should probably lighten the mood, honestly. So, how about some trivia? This marks the second and last appearance of the Simon Says game from day 17. The part at the end is said map covered in black fog at night. When looking back at the script, I accidentally switched to a different font halfway through. Lastly, this day's thumbnail is the only one where the corner logo is directly affected by other elements of the thumbnail, being dark and smudgy like the rest of the picture. Moving on.
Does what it does, you know?
We're here at the home stretch, and I wanted it to really feel like it, so most of the background footage is one game, Cozy Halloween House by F.E.A.R. So, what better way to kick it off than endless complaining? I had a major bone to pick with these games that, like Area Omega, was deserved. But unlike Area Omega, the tone is consistently pessimistic and ends on a downer note. Like, I go on a 5-minute rant that takes up most of the video about it. I didn't really think about what I was angrily typing down, just that I needed to tell someone about it. Moving on. The last few videos for October Celebrations were always meant to be more explicitly about Halloween, so these are more fresh than the rest.
After all, without music, some other forms of media might feel incomplete, and we are so used to this stuff. When it's gone, it's a lot more noticeable and makes it feel more empty. Of course, I would never intentionally not add music to brush out a video. Nope, that never happened. Let's go over.
The reason I was saying this is because I was lazy once with music. Not having it in as a video I was making had been on the back burner for a while. You know, I was very new to editing, so I chose to rag on myself for it. And here we are. Time is a flat circle. Moving on. You know, I intended this video to be very big. I thought it was going to be breaking 30 minutes. I didn't really do any background research when picking my topics though, so I was left with not a lot to say. Given this is the penultimate video, I had a little hint here and there about the finale. Hyping it up, you know, putting a little spice in there. Because I was ready to cook. I was working during October as this was going along, with a script and voice at the ready, with a clear direction. Moving on. If by the off chance you're a newcomer, you're probably wondering why I'm not commentating on Day 31 yet. This is because, unfortunately, Day 31 does not exist. And there's a simple reason why. Burnout. I had already put so much work into this little project, and the video was shaping up to be 25 minutes long. The only other time I made a video that long before was a barely edited slog. I did not have the fuel left to keep trudging through shortcut one edit at a time. Now call me a broken record, but once again, procrastination and burnout were the main causes of the project's flaws and disappointing end. I would slack off, thinking about all the work I'd do eventually, only to either waste the whole day, or something IRL would stop me and I blamed that for why work wasn't being done. Then after a good few days, I would speedrun a bunch of stuff like scripts, voicing, or editing, freeing up all my drive to keep going, and the cycle would repeat. If I could have your attention, recall at the beginning that I wanted to both enjoy my summer and speedrun the whole video making process. So instead of taking my time, I'd be split up trying to multitask everything needed for October celebrations and spending as much time having fun as I could. I was obsessed with just having a finished product, this nagging feeling that I was falling behind or that I wasn't good enough following me every step of the way. Some videos like the one on Bear***, looking back, I felt like I was just speedrunning and trying to go as fast as I could, while others like the 4 scripts made in one day were made as slow as possible to be as good as I could make them. So let's see here. I had no real plan, never put a schedule on myself, and was always tiptoeing on the line of I'm gonna finish this easy and I'm never gonna finish this in time. Overall, this was a case of horrible time management. However, I was convinced it would all be worth it, as I had 31 videos ready to be released and shown to the world. Now people would see what Argo was all about. So, most of these got like 30 to 60 views in the first month. Most of my regular videos would reach at least 100 views at that same point. Now, I'm no algorithm expert, but I think there were a few key reasons why this happened. One was the unexpected amount of videos releasing in a short amount of time. It might have seen this as spam and thus lowered the amount of viewers it would reach, especially since my channel was used to uploads being weeks or even months apart. The thumbnails were also a big blow. Given they were rushed, I never took the time to look back and wonder if they were all that appealing. So people would see that garbled mess of graphic design and not think it was worth a click. For my longtime viewers, I can only imagine that watching a video every single day would get tiring, especially if they didn't care about the topic at hand. It's something that we've all done with our favorite channels, after all. I should probably also make note of the fact that these were time sensitive, being contained to Halloween related topics, so after that, they wouldn't be recommended much. All this and probably more factors I'm still unaware of caused the videos to flatline in views after October or sometimes even the day they dropped. The biggest amount of views I got was from the video on Bear***, most likely due to the Halloween event happening at the same time. However, it too flatlined, and I didn't even get any comments, so it's not like many viewers were persuaded. The biggest tragedy of all, however, had to be Day 7, Dragon Riders. You know, the one meant to get people to care about a dead game again. Yeah, it was in the teens in views. It was and still is my least viewed video of all time. October Celebrations was seemingly a waste of time, especially in views. The only reason it looked successful from a very surface level analysis is because dropping so many videos means your actual audience will watch it and feel good doing so, pumping out a lot of views in a short amount of time. You wanna know something funny? A lot of these were dated before they even dropped, like Day 8 for instance. I mentioned that the person who made the better video on it did so while I was still preparing mine. Day 17 was another outlier in this, the whole sappy ending I prepared being rendered null by the game becoming unprivated again. Day 4 had me talking about my interpretation of an animatum, RetroStudio monster. Had I done a little bit more research, I would have found out what the creator's intended message was with that thing. It was quite literally a few clicks away on its profile. Not that it invalidated my interpretation, it should just help paint the picture that my lack of research and care cost me. Heck, the title wasn't even a real homage anymore because October Celebrations changed his name twice, once to BrianFoodLunch and later to Bedsheet Ghost as we know him now. After it ended, I looked back at October Celebrations and realized just how choppy the editing could be, and looking back at those who had inspired me, saw that my imitation was rather lacking. To top it all off, it turns out I wasn't even the first guy with this idea, because some guy named Draggyy is going to do the same with Donkey Kong in December a year before me, but just never committed to it. Then another one of my initial inspirations, designing for, revived the concept and importantly, with the helping hand of some other creators, did what I tried to do but a lot better. Most especially because it had Donkey Kong. But hey, I didn't leave completely empty-handed. The creator of RetroStudio commented on my video, the one I went out of my way to critically think about. Roblox Drag, or Draggyy, the owner of the Venomshake account and creator of RetroStudio and a lot of other games, found my video and reached out for the comments, probably because of tourists being considerably less popular for the game, meaning less videos to surf through before finding mine. He thought it was great, told me the true meaning behind the game's monster, and told me of an even harder version of the game. So I did achieve some fame after all, even if it was more personal. Eventually, I knew I would want to get back on my feet, and where better than home base, RetroStudio, oh RetroStudio. Their second Halloween event came out on November 1st after delays, meaning it was prime time for me to get right back up and keep moving on. This of course did not come without procrastination and struggling with burnout though. The video was released more than a month after the event ended, and I once had to pick myself right back up after a long evening of editing the next day to finish the video before it was scheduled to come out due to procrastination. But I made it nonetheless. In the first two scripts, this would be the part where I look back and talk about the progress I made with my new, cleaner editing tactics and better thumbnails. However, after a lot of time spent doing much more complex stuff and trying to reinvent my commentary style, I think I'm better off keeping things simple. I've always been an overachiever and comically ambitious. That combined with a sense of pride from being the best RetroStudio YouTuber made me want to keep getting better at my game. My current style up until this point has required a lot more assets and extra bells and whistles that need to be set up. After I had finished my Skengin video, I was gonna work on even more segments to spice things up for the next big video. But when I tried to write the next script with all these extra things in mind, I just couldn't keep up with the imaginary standard I set for myself. And knowing all the hours of work I had to do just to keep this high bar up, not to mention still not knowing how to improve my shotcut experience, I just didn't want to do it anymore. The real kicker? This was because of nearly the same reason as OctoberCelebrations troubled development. I once watched a video by Dog on his advice for making it on YouTube. To paraphrase, he mentioned being the best at your own game instead of playing into a much larger one with lots of competition. So I took that advice head on, and in a single afternoon, I already decided what I wanted my channel to be like from that point on. Surprise, surprise, I'm back at square one. OctoberCelebrations 2022 ended after the 30th of that month, but the problems that caused it to be so divisive to me didn't leave, so I think cutting down the fat suits me best. Will I go back to making videos? Most likely. I have a lot of things I'd like to talk about, though don't expect a schedule anytime soon. It'll be out when it's out is basically my channel's motto at this point. Now, will there ever be another OctoberCelebrations? Can't say. Though if I were to try again, it'd be just a handful of videos on topics I care about to maintain quality. At the end of the day, it was a big learning experience, and one I hope to grow from. So yeah, thanks for watching this little retrospective. See you next time.